This week, the Austin City Council is continuing to discuss the Land Development Code, which is the rule book dictating what and where things can be built in the city. And joining us for Mondays with the mayor, Mayor Steve Adler is back. Good morning to you.
Always good to be with you.
Yeah, we are happy to have you. Mayor, you know, there are some people who don't really just understand why the City Council wants to redo the Land Development Code. Explain to us kind of in basic terms why that is.
Well, the current code we have is 30 years old and it's not serving us well. And we live in a city that over the last 10 years had about 350,000 people come, and we built about 128,000 new homes. And when you have so many more people coming and not having that supply, it bids up price. But we have localized flooding in this city. We have homes that are being torn down and being replaced by big McMansions. We're displacing people, losing people. If we're going to preserve and protect what it is that's special about the spirit and soul of this place, we need a land development code for today.
You know, there are some people that are understandably concerned because they feel like the code is going to transform the way the city looks and housing looks in the city, but that's sort of the point.
It's sort of the point, and it's going to take a long time for any of this. I mean, it's not like we snap our fingers and the city changes. But wouldn't it be nice if on our corridors where you had retail, people could rent an apartment or buy a condo on our main corridors? You can't do that now under our code. Wouldn't it be great if we had a code that gave an incentive for people to preserve existing homes and maybe build an ADU or two on the back so that they can grow old in place? Those are things that we need. So this is going to move forward. We'll get it done here on third reading, I think the end of March, first week in April. And then we can move on to talk about other things. You
know, I guess there are some people who say the current code, especially when you talk to home builders and folks in construction who say, man, the current code just makes it too expensive to build right now in Austin. Things just cost more because of how the code is written out. Are some of those things still going to be in place, you think, in the new code?
This new code is designed to make things simpler and faster and better to be able to build. So it's going to address those things, and usually those things are tied to affordability. So if someone wants to come in and build a triplex or a quad, which we don't have a lot of in the city, and dedicate one of the units to affordability forever, well, then we might make it even easier for that person to go through the process to keep costs down so that we get that affordable unit. Right now in Austin, we have all those affordable units that are just disappearing. So unless we do something to make it happen, it's not going to happen here.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see how this is all going to play out. One other thing that we want to chat with you before we run out of time is obviously the governor continuing to be very vocal and very active on Twitter with his criticism of the homeless policies and the crime that's happening in the city. Address that for us.
And I will. Let me, one postscript on the Land Development Code, if I could, real
No problem.
fast. Is most of the people that I've talked to testified at public hearings that were in opposition to it were complaining about the transition areas. I've suggested to my colleagues on the council that if we can get to an agreement on the code, I would support making sure the transition areas were no deeper than 2 lots anywhere in the city. And I'm hoping that that kind of compromise might work.
And so for viewers who haven't heard of what these transition areas are, to explain what a transition area is.
That's the area between the corridors where we want more density and more supply of housing in our neighborhoods that generally speaking we don't want to touch. You have to have a transition area between the two. But I think we could make it smaller than it is right now, and if that got us to compromise, then I'd want to do that. With respect to the governor and his tweets, you know, we're just staying focused on what we need to do to house people and not hide them. We know what works in this city. We've got to effective zero with veterans. We've taken half of the children off our streets that were experiencing homelessness. We know what works if we just stay focused on the task. So I'm trying not to get caught up in all the Twitter and social media that's going on, and just remain focused on getting this job done so that we can end homelessness in our city.
You raised a very good point the other last week, I believe, and it was that when we get to this time of year, as we go into the spring festival season, we start to see an uptick in crime in Austin anyway.
And we did last year. And no one connected it with homelessness. homelessness. I mean, because it wasn't an issue then, but we had a spike in crime, and the police chief said that he wanted to pull more officers downtown, have a greater presence. He did that. The spike went back down, and then he returned everybody back to where they were before. Now we have another spike. The police chief is moving people down to get extra presence. And you know, what I've asked the chief is, you know, have we gotten to the place in our city as we grow and there are more and more people mixing and interacting, maybe we just need to keep that base level of appearance year round.
Well, are we going to add some more police officers, Mayor? Are we going to fund more police officers for that?
We have 3 cadet classes. One that is happening right now with graduates just happening, and 2 more this year. So we get some more officers on the streets.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, that is our time. If you guys missed any of this interview, we're going to upload it onto KVUE.com for you right after the newscast. We'll be right back.